Getting a mining job, myths and legends. What you do and don't need to get a mining job. Welcome to Australian Mining for New Starters. I just wanted to do a quick PowerPoint running through things that you do and don't need to get into the mining industry, as there continues to be lots of confusion out there on how it all works. Each state in Australia has their own set of rules for mining. Each state has its own inspectorate. Some states have certain courses that must be completed before employment. These courses are often called inductions. Now, please don't confuse these induction courses with mining knowledge. These courses are all about safety knowledge and major policies within the mine. Often they only give limited information on how the mine works. Very important information, but not mining knowledge. And just to explain that, when you get to site, you'll probably end up doing a whole site induction, and then if you work in the underground side of things, you'll have to do a surface induction, which you'll take in the pit, and then you'll have to do an underground induction. And all that will entail is the escape ways, muster points, policies, harassment policies, all that sort of stuff gets put into all those inductions. For the actual mining knowledge, that's when you go in with the safety and training guys and you do your procedures and your tickets. And then you get shoved with your buddy, and if it's for hard rock underground, you get shoved with the buddy to go down the hole to help you acclimatise to what you've got to do and show you the job. And that's very important to distinguish the difference between the two. There are induction courses around the country that people try and sell. New South Wales have the Coal Board course. Queensland has the S11 coal requirement. Now, so you need an S11 to work in coal in Queensland. You can't use that S11 to work in New South Wales. You can't use the New South Wales Coal Board certificate to work in Queensland either. If you jump from one to another, you've got to do the other induction. So in hard rock mining, you'll be required to do the site safety induction no matter how many sites you've worked at. So each site is required to produce its own safety inductions when you get to site. And those are the surface and underground and site inductions that I was talking about. So no matter how much experience you have and how many inductions you've done, you'll have to do the site induction. So that's really important to understand, that you'll have to do that induction. So basic standards for a job: able to pass a full medical, able to pass a pre-employment drug test, able to provide a police clearance, driver's license, just a manual driver's license for underground, manual car license. You need to have a HR unrestricted for the open cut or off-siting work on the surface, because once you get onto the gazetted roads, and they're the roads that you can be charged by police on, if you're over 15 tonne, you need a HR license no matter how the vehicle's driven, whether it's a automatic or a manual or whatever. So be prepared to get a senior first aid ticket, able to work 12-hour shifts, able to work night shift. And this is one thing that I didn't realise until I started shift bossing, is that between 5 and 10% of the population, they have they basically can't sleep during the day, and so their circadian rhythms won't allow them to get into that sleeping during the day pattern. And when I first started shift bossing, in the first 12 months, we had 3 people came through that all suffered from that condition. And because you can't perform on night shift, then there is no job, unfortunately. So that's just something to think about as you go forward. If you're one of these people that can't do night shift, then mining's probably not going to be for you. So able to fly on small planes. I've had a terrible experience on a small plane once. Anybody that tells you that they glide is lying. They drop like rocks. Be able to work in a hazardous environment. The workspace, especially in a hard rock underground mine, is constantly changing, so you're constantly dealing with a hazardous environment. Be able to work at heights. Believe it or not, when you go underground, there's a lot of work at heights. They keep everything up out of the way, try not to run anything over. So with all the service crew work, you're often working at heights, and it's the same thing working on the mill or in other areas of the industry. There's lots of work at heights that people don't realise. Be able to relocate from work. That's really important. You've got to go where the work is. And be committed to working safely, which is an obvious must within the industry. The one thing that people don't often talk about is the high turnover of new starters. In the area where there's lots of jobs at the moment, and that's hard rock, underground and exploration, they turn over about 3 and 5 new starters in the first 6 months. Iron ore and coal, they don't turn over as many, but unfortunately at the moment there's only a handful of new starter jobs going in those areas. The bulk of the new starter jobs are in hard rock, underground and exploration. Now, why is the turnover so high? People coming into the industry are underprepared for the challenges that mining brings. They simply don't have enough mining knowledge. Alright, so when you get to site, the site employers will fill you up with as much information as possible in the shortest amount of time possible. The reason is simple. Time is money when you are mining, and they require you to be a productive member of crew as soon as possible. Don't kid yourself. If you can't get up to speed in time, or you keep making the same basic mistakes, you'll end up getting a window seat on the next plane out, and that's the vernacular for getting the sack. That's why the underground training courses are so good, because they teach you how the mine works, and they don't only just teach you what you'd learn in the induction, but they also teach you what you'd learn down the hole, and also in the procedures and what they'll run through in the tickets. Now, that's the mining knowledge that you need to have up to speed. The sooner you can find your feet, and the sooner that the shift boss doesn't need to worry about you, and other senior members of crew don't need to worry about you, that's where you've made it to the safe space. While they're still umming and ahhing whether you know what's going on, and you haven't found your feet yet with it all, that's when the chance of something going wrong is going to happen. This is the easiest way of avoiding this, is to know how the mine works and what's going on and what's going to be expected of you before you get to site. That's the easiest way to deal with it. And again, like I said, the underground training courses are really good for that. So mining knowledge plus a mining friendly resume plus a mining contact equals a mining job. And the reason it's scaled like this is on the importance, because if you've got your mining knowledge up to speed and you've got your resume with everything on the front page as like it's supposed to be, then it's pretty easy to chase down a mining contact. Whereas if you've got no mining knowledge and you're relying on somebody that you know, then the size of the fonts would be reversed. Your mining contact would be the biggest, most important thing. But this way, once you get your mining knowledge up to speed, it's really easy to make a mining contact. Everybody's going to want to be your first best friend, especially if you go to Kalgoorlie. We've had a number of people go to Kalgoorlie and get multiple job offers just because they knew how the mine worked. So myths and legends, things to look out for are anyone telling you that it's all about them to get the job is full of it. Now, with what we do, it's about you. You're the one that has to be able to answer the mining questions in the interview. No one's handing you a job. That's a pathway in. All the information's there for you to learn it and succeed it, but you have to do it on your own. Be very suspicious of anybody that's just telling you, pay you $220 and I'll give you the secret of getting in. That stuff just doesn't work. If the secret to getting into the mining industry is to know how it works, that's what they want when they're all after people that know how it works. So if anybody tells you that it's their magic resume, is full of, shit, unfortunately. Now, resumes are a very important part of the job, but if you don't have that anchor on the resume that's going to suck the foreman or the project manager in and get their attention, then you can spend a lot of money on stuff that's just not going to help you, unfortunately. Now, the resume writers have a place in all this, but you've got to have something to sell the employers before you should spend a fortune on doing a resume. Now, anyone telling you that you must do an S11 induction before getting a job is full of. If someone tells you that one induction course is industry-wide, and the reason that this is on here is because lots of people try and tell everybody that the S11 is industry-wide. Believe it or not, if you're in the industry, the hard rock industry, underground, they're trying to sell S11 inductions here in WA. They're trying to sell them in every state in Australia as a way of getting into the mining industry. So just let that wash over you for a second. They're trying to sell a coal induction that's about coal mining in Queensland to people in Western Australia to try and get into the mining industry. So what sort of chances are you going to get with any of that? Not a lot. So you need a white card to go mining. White cards are for construction. If you work in construction on a mine site, that's different than a mining job. It's a construction job on a mine site. That's what it is. You have to be under 100 kilos to get in. You don't have to be light, but you can't be super heavy either, and you need to be walking fit. So there is a medical to do, and you have to pass that, but you don't have to be triathlete fit either. You just need to be walking fit. You need to have a HR licence to drive an underground truck. No, you just need a manual car licence to drive an underground truck. The reverse, you don't need a HR licence to drive a truck on the surface. Pretty much every mine site that I know that's on the surface requires HR licences, because most of them have got a gazetted road running through them at some point, which means that everybody needs a HR licence once the vehicle hits that gazetted road. Otherwise, they're breaking the law, and that's why you require a HR licence to drive an automatic truck. Hard rock employers use the R2 ticketing system. They don't. They have to issue all their tickets on site, and they're non-transferable. So every equipment ticket that you're going to get will be site specific, and all the procedures have to be redone whenever you go to site as per mine standard. So R2 tickets are for construction, they're for shutdowns. Coal in Queensland uses them, and oil and gas uses them as well. Hard rock, like I said, I can't use them because they have to issue their own on-site tickets. Someone telling you that your civil tickets will transfer. No, they won't, because they can't import tickets on site. All they want is people that know how their mine works. That there's one National Mines Inspectorate. So if you're reading on a website and they're telling you that the National Mines Inspectorate wants you to do the S11 because that's the way of getting a job, they're talking a complete load of shit. There's lots of websites around claiming that, unfortunately. My mate works in the mine, he can get you in. Here's my rule with mates and mining. If it hasn't happened in 3 months, it's probably not going to happen. Now, what a lot of people don't realise is that if you bring a friend into mining, and this was done on a video of a guy that he did the video probably about 4 or 5 months ago. He's in Queensland, he works on the mill, and he explained it very succinctly about how if you help a friend get a job and they stuff it up, it's a bad reflection on you to the point that you might lose your job. And that's an unfortunate thing about the hard rock mining industry. If you help somebody else in and they make a complete cluster of it, it's going to cost you. And depending on how bad it is depending on how much it's going to cost you. A lot of people have trouble wrapping their head around that, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately, and why a lot of people will take a lot of resumes, but very few resumes get handed in. The best way to try and go and get your mining job is to try and go and get it yourself. Learn how the mine works and then approach them. I hope that information helps, and if you want a pathway into the underground industry, then have a look at the packages Underground Training has at their website, www.undergroundtraining.com.au. So there's lots of good information on there. Good luck, and if you make it to a mine site, try to remember these 4 things. Safety can't be bought, faked, or obtained by fear. It can only be earned with time and vigilance. To achieve this safe workplace, we need to have a positive attitude towards and a personal belief in safety. Learn as much about the job as you can. Remember, there's more than one way to do a job, and believe in your skills to do the work. Safety comes from doing the job the right way. Your skills in the workplace. That's what makes safety safety. And most important is the confidence to stop the work when the hazard can't be controlled. You're working in a hazardous workplace. Sometimes things pop up, and you just need to have the balls to turn around and say, no, we're stopping this, and I'm going to get the shift boss down to have a look and see what's going on. I hope they found that information helpful, and if you've got any more questions that you'd like answered or any information about the industry, please send it through. Thanks.